Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 Animalic fragrances, so stay tuned for that. If you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button, really do appreciate it. So Animalic fragrances, things that have things like the note of Castoreum or Civet, are usually heavy, musky fragrances, and they can even be a little bit challenging depending on how heavy they are. They can be a little bit skanky. Some of them are very luxurious and have a beautiful musky accord to them. And I picked out 5 fragrances that I think really has a diversity of what kind of animalic nature you get with the fragrance. And you know what? Let's just get into it. The first one is from Andy Tower, and it's Oud. This one is on the bottom of the list partially because I personally find it a little bit unwearable. So it is essentially heavy animalic and oud. The reason it's on this list, though, is because it's really artistically beautiful. It's not something I personally would see myself wearing, but it is something that is so well crafted and such an artistic piece that it's very easy, at least, to appreciate the workmanship and the craftsmanship that went into the fragrance. And a lot of people do say this about Andy Tower fragrances, that they're very artistic, a lot of them, and this one is no exception. Of course, it has skanky, animalic kind of oud, not really totally poop smelling, but it is a little bit more challenging. The heavy animalics in there definitely contribute to that factor. What's interesting is it has things like the note of mushroom that I've never seen in another fragrance, and it does actually smell. There is mushroom in it. I can really pick out that mushroom note, and you can smell all the different facets of the fragrance and really appreciate the beauty of what he's created. But again, it is one of these fragrances that I would find very challenging to wear. If you like it, if you want to wear it, it also performs extremely well. So this is a long-lasting fragrance. I don't know, 10 plus hours. And that shouldn't be too much of a surprise because of the kinds of notes that it has. But anyways, Andy Tower, Oud. If you want to try something artistic, I would recommend getting a sample on that one. The next one is Nishane. And this is one that's not really talked about, and that is Unutamam. Now, this one is a little bit less expensive than a lot of their lines. It is a 30 ml, I believe, and I got this for a fairly low price. This is another one that I do like, but I'm not a huge fan of it. I did blind buy this, so I'll do a full review of this. One of the reasons is because Nishane has really never let me down in terms of the fragrances that I've tried. Although I wasn't a huge fan of Annie. And this one sounded very interesting and animalic, and it does have an oregano note. So that's one thing about this fragrance that really makes it stand out. It's not a note that I find I see a lot in perfume. And so it was something I wanted to try. This has been one that's been more of a grower. So the first time I tried it, I really did not like it. But it is one that is a little bit more of a grower and something that I've come to appreciate more. It's still not one that I think I would wear a ton, and this is one reason why it's a little bit lower on the list. But the way that this blends with that animalic, so I believe it has Castoreum, that animalic quality, it has a bit of mintiness, and it also has that oregano note. Actually creates a really interesting vibe that's really hard to characterize, but that oregano is very realistic, like a dried oregano leaves kind of accord, with a animalic backbone and a little hint of mint. The mint to me is not super strong, but it is there. And so for me, this just puts it together as a very complex, aromatic, interesting fragrance. And one that, as I said, I've come to appreciate a little bit more as I've worn it a little bit more, but I'm going to do a full review on this one later. Performance is pretty good. I would say around 8 hours. It's not as nuclear as I thought it would be with respect to performance, just given the notes that are in it. But the performance is pretty good from the couple times that I've tried it out. And it is an interesting fragrance. So, not an absolute love, but it is a unique one. And I think if you want something that's a little animalic and different, and interestingly enough, this seems to be fairly mass appealing. I wouldn't say this is a mass appealing monster, but I've had people that hate almost everything, but they've liked this one. So it does have a certain appeal to it. And it is going to keep you smelling different, but this is a definite sample before you buy because, like I said, it is a little bit more challenging with that heavy oregano and animalic undertone that it has. But anyways, that is Nishane Unutamam. You can never say this one right. So next one on the list. Now, this one was reformulated. It is none other than Christian Dior Leather Oud. And I have talked about this one before on the channel. And while it is tempting to tell you that the older formulation is just that much better, the prices I've seen people asking for it are pretty outrageous, and I personally wouldn't consider doing it. I mean, that's always a personal choice you got to make. But I think that, at least from what I've seen of the reformulation, it captures enough of this essence of this fragrance to really make it something that's still worthwhile. That really musky, aggressive kind of quality that it has, it really reminds me of like a more refined, higher quality fragrance like Anateus, which is quite musky if I remember correctly. It is kind of like that to the extreme, much more luxurious with the musks and the animalic nature, and much more well blended and smooth. Now this one has civet in it, and it does have oud. I don't get tons and tons of oud, which is kind of interesting. Not tons of leather either. There is leather that I get in the opening. It does have some highlights of leather, and you know, at times this even has, I believe it has like a honeycomb in it, which gives it a little bit of a really sleek, luxurious quality when you get it. Sometimes I feel like this is one where you're like riding through the desert on a camel or something, and just the smell of the saddle, really high quality saddle, the camel and everything that's going on kind of gives you that quality. This is really a very nicely done, masculine, high quality fragrance. And to be honest with you, I think I'm going to have to wear this one a little bit more in the winter. Now, as I said, this one has been reformulated. The older formulation, which is what I have right here, it does have a little bit of a poopy quality. So sometimes you do get that smell of poop, and there's just no escaping it. And that's the really animalic nature of the civet and the oud that's in this. And so one thing I think I appreciate about this fragrance is that it really does push that limit. It really pushes the edge of what can be appealing to people and yet border on being too much. And this one kind of really dances that fine line and does it really quite well. It's, you know, luxurious, and I've been very, very surprised on, to be honest with you, this is one that I've gotten a lot of positive comments and remarks from, especially from women, and especially from, I mean, especially for a guy more around my age. There's a lot of times I find the women that I meet, they're more traditional in the sense that they do sort of see fragrance being a lot more gendered than personally I do. So some of these really sweet fragrances or gourmand fragrances, they might find to be more feminine, which I'm fine wearing. Those types of women are definitely going to respond more positively to this one, because this is more of like a man's man kind of fragrance. And so if you want something that does have that very manly, rugged kind of a nature to it, this is a good choice. I can't really speak to the new one with respect to performance. I know that it doesn't have really the poopy vibe, which is actually an upgrade in some ways. But the performance of this is stellar. At least 12 hours. Like this one, you're going to have to shower it off pretty much. It lasts so long, and it's really good actually. I almost bought a partial of the 2010, which is the original, but it just wasn't worth the price they were asking in my opinion. Now, I should get a test or a sample of the newer one and compare performance, scent profile, but I know the heart of what makes this fragrance is still there. Now, how well crafted it is, I can't say. And I do always hesitate to really talk about discontinued fragrances and stuff like that, or reformulated ones. But this one is so well done and so good. I think it's worth trying even the new one, because even if it's about 80% is good, then it's still really good. So there's that one right there. The next one on the list is Roja Parfums Fetish. Now, again, this is one that I got to do a full review on, but it's not just the animalic nature. So this one I believe also has Castoreum in it. It's not just the animalic that really puts this one on this list. This one is just so beautifully well crafted and luxurious. It has one of the most sexy openings that I have ever smelled. It has this really beautiful, spicy, leathery, kind of explosive, very powerful, very masculine vibe to it. And again, with that Castoreum in it as well. So it does have those animalic touches. Now, it is one that is also nuclear. So this one, you know, if I spray this, it's going to fill a room without a doubt. It's very powerful. But it is one that also, I think, is, for me, depending on the situation, easy to wear. But a lot of people might not feel that way. I don't wear it that often because it is one that is a little bit more expensive, but even more than that, it is one that comes off a lot as being a very luxurious, expensive fragrance. It smells expensive, and I think it is the most well-suited for those formal occasions. So, you know, it doesn't get broken out a ton, but it's really, really good, and I think I'm actually going to try wearing it a little bit more this fall or winter, just because, you know what, it's just, I'm not going to have it sit here for a lifetime. I want to get some enjoyment out of the fragrance. But altogether, long-lasting fragrance, has a lot of dimensions to it. I know some people said this one has sometimes an old man kind of mothballs mid kind of dry down. I kind of understand where they're coming from with that. So there is this dimension of it, especially in the mid, that has this bit of a mothball feel to it, but altogether, it is so well done. And like I said, one of the best openings, one of the best sensual, seductive, sexy openings that a fragrance has ever had, in my opinion. It's just got that spice, that leather, that animalic, and everything you think of, really, when you think of those types of fragrances. And to be honest, this one comes off more to me what I always thought T-Rex is supposed to be like. It's monstrous, it's a beast, it's fiery. But to me, T-Rex is actually a lot more wearable than that. It's not one that I found to be overwhelming or too potent or anything like that. So, anyways, get sidetracked. Roja, Fetish. This is the EDP, which is now discontinued, but the Parfum is going to do the job very, very well as well. So, of course, try a sample before you buy, but if you are looking for that animalic, luxurious, classy, sexy man's fragrance, this is a really good one, so do check it out. And the last one on the list gets the list, or makes the list, for a couple of reasons. One, it's the most mass appealing in my opinion out of all these fragrances, and two, it is really well crafted, and that is none other than Zoologist Camel. I don't have a bottle of this one, I've just had a sample of it. I would like to do a full review of it, and I will say the reason why is because it potentially suffers from performance issues. The couple times that I did sample it, I didn't find it to be very long lasting. In fact, I would say 6 hours or less, which to me would be problematic, not only for the kind of fragrances that it is, but also for the price that you pay. So that is one potential warning I would give. Of course, always sample before you buy, and then you have to decide whether it's worth it for you. But the biggest thing is, like some other fragrances, like the Leather Oud, it really does this dance between too much and just right. And it does that with a different aspect. So this does it with, you know, muskiness, leather, and a little bit of that honeycomb. This does it with dried fruits, and I believe it's civet, but it could be Castoreum. And it does it with that animalic tone. So on the initial blast, I actually found it to be overwhelmingly animalic, way too much. You know, I personally would not have worn it based on the first 5 seconds because it's just so animalic, so skanky, and just too much to actually, for me personally as a person, to enjoy wearing. But in, you know, within the first minute or so, that's when those dry fruits start to come out. And then it balances this nice, beautiful, sweet, mass-appealing dry fruit accord with this animalic, almost too much, overpowering kind of a scent profile. And when you blend them perfectly, which it nails very well, you get this really beautiful, sweet, animalic fragrance that is just a pleasure to wear. It's very addictive, a little bit sensual with that dried fruit aspect and that animalic undertone, and it's done really, really well. Now, like I said, the only potential problem I have with this one is that it may have not very good performance. I've had other people tell me the same thing, so I want to do a full review of that one, but I'm going to have to fully check it out to see. So it got the top spot mostly because of that beautiful dance between too much and not enough, and executing what I think is probably the more mass appealing animalic fragrance out of all of these lists. And I find animalic fragrances, although often get more positive attention than I would think, are not as mass appealing as some things like Sauvage or what have you. They're definitely something that is a little bit more risque, if you want to think about it that way. But anyways, guys, I'm going to cut the video there. That is my list. Top 5 animalic fragrances. What animalic fragrances do you really love wearing? Have you not tried anything animalic? What do you want to try out? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.